It's a new day. It is Wednesday, 31st of... I was about to say August. Why August? 31st of March. I'm just enjoying a nice cup of Yorkshire biscuit brew. It's as nice as everyone's been saying, so I've been enjoying that. Now my dishwasher is running, so I hope the sound will still be okay. But I just wanted to check in because, yes, we're back. More Darkwater sweater. And I wanted to end this part, which is now part 3, I believe. And I wanted to end it once the colourwork was done. And guess what? So, it's done. And I'll show it off in just a second, but I just wanted to talk about a few things first. So yesterday, I think I didn't do any filming at all, but I know I did on like the Monday, Sunday, maybe both of those. And I think I mentioned either my podcast or in an earlier part of this video that I had a job interview. So I had that yesterday on Tuesday, quite early in the morning, and spent the rest of the day literally not really doing anything because I was so tired from getting up early and having such an intense morning. It went really well though, really enjoyed it, and even if I don't get the job, it was just a lovely experience. So I learned a lot, and it was just nice. So I just presented some of the work I'd done during my PhD. It's a postdoc position that I'm applying for, and yeah, we'll see. I'm not expecting to really hear back soon. I know they were trying to get through interviews and things as quickly as possible because of Easter, but I doubt I'd hear anything before Easter, but we'll see. I don't have the perfect experience for the job. There's obviously overlap, otherwise I wouldn't have applied and I wouldn't have gotten an interview. But it became very clear there wasn't too much they could tell me about the work I'd be doing, for kind of legal reasons. I'm not going to get into it. But the little bit they could kind of tell me, and just with the work they do in the group, it's a bit more... My work is related, but there's a lot I'd have to learn. But when I kind of met the group and talked to them, they also said, yeah, but your kind of expertise is, you know, in an area and doing things that we typically don't do. So that's good for everyone else to kind of learn and to potentially expand the research the group does into another direction. We'll see. It really depends on the other candidates. It depends how much they care about certain things. And like I said, I don't know the full or many details at all about the project. So I'm happy with how it went. And I'm happy if I get the job, and I'm okay if I don't. Obviously, I'd rather get the job than not. But anyway, so that was yesterday, but the only thing I kind of did do while trying to just relax and recover because I was so tired was I worked on my Darkwater sweater because I really wanted this colour work done. So now there's a plane going by. I've got my doors open because it's a really lovely day today. I've already been outside earlier today for a walk and things, and we'll probably go for another one in the afternoon. But I just like when the weather has been kind of miserable and we're coming out of winter to just have my living room doors open for quite a while and just get that fresh spring feeling into the apartment and cleanse the air, if you will. But during my podcast, I think I was up to row 21, 22, something like that with my colour work, and there's 52 rows in total, so I still had a while to go. And I did about 10 rows, I think it was on Sunday, another 10 rows I think on Monday, and then yesterday kind of finished off the last few. But as I've mentioned before, I really like it when you don't have to really catch your floats with colour work, and I've especially noticed that with fingering weight yarn. Catching floats is when I have issues with my tension, especially with superwash yarn. With the foxtail socks that I'm making, it's not as much of an issue because of the kind of cashmere in there. It's a bit grippier, and because it's just a bit plumpier, it makes catching floats and colour work just quite easy. But with kind of standard superwash yarn, it gets trickier. I think the reason I haven't been struggling too much with this yarn is because I didn't realise until I caked up more yarn, because I've now finished off my first ball of my main colour, so I've got my second one here. I didn't realise that it was 100% superwash merino. I thought it had nylon in it. It does not. So it's Charlie's Foot Free Squish base, which I think is such a cute name. So I think that might help with the grippiness, because I think the fact that there's no nylon, aka no kind of plastic, if you will, I think that makes it grippier. But I still very much can notice that there are areas where you've got to, in the middle here, where you've got to catch floats, where currently the tension isn't that even. I'm convinced it will block out, because I think my floats are actually looking quite good for the most part. But I have noticed that with the way that I knit colour work with 2 fingers, that my contrast colour, which is the white, those floats I tend to be too loose. And with my main colour, which I flick with my right hand, that's not how I normally knit, my floats tend to be kind of too tight. So I've been working on that and just working on my tension in general. But like I said, this is my first proper fingering weight jumper. I've also obviously started the Otra yoke cardigan and kind of noticed a similar thing, but that one you didn't have to catch your float at all with the colourwork design. So it's just been interesting, kind of, because I feel so much more confident with colourwork now, but to still kind of learn and tweak my skill with it, it's nice. But yeah, so colourwork is done. I'm just finishing off the kind of yoke now, and I'll soon be separating for sleeves. So in the next video, hopefully, I'll be, just chatting and talking while I knit some of the body. I'm not going to film now as I split for sleeves, because I am most likely going to screw up the counting, and knitting into the cast on stitches under the underarm I find really frustrating. But that's where I'm going to end the video for today. I'm really happy with the progress. Part of me is now like, you were freaking out, but you could probably get this done. But it is fingering weight. Like, it's still going to take quite a while, because I don't want this to be short. I've got 3 more skeins of my main colour, which would be more than enough. It's more than the yardage recommended in the pattern, but I needed slightly more than 3, because I know I always have to add length to the body and to the sleeves. I was like, well, you're buying a 4th. But what I've decided to do is I've actually caked up 2, and for the first time ever, I'm actually going to alternate every round. But I'm going to use helical knitting, because I've fallen in love with that, and I never liked alternating skeins with hand-dyed yarn, because I didn't like that you had to be worried about your tension at the beginning of round marker. But with helical knitting, you don't have to worry about that at all. So if some of you have never done helical knitting or don't really know what it is, I'll get into it in the next part of this video, because I'm only just about to start, and I want to talk about it once I've got a bit of the body done already and I can easily show it off. But that's it. So colourwork done. As I mentioned, I'm pretty happy with it. Let's just precariously put my cup of tea on the sofa. I am quite happy with it. I'm on quite a small cable for the yoke, but it will get easier once I've separated the sleeves. It's not perfect. My tension at certain points, you can definitely tell the rows where I didn't have to catch floats are way better than the ones where I did. There are some larger stitches with the contrast colour. There is a bit of puckering, but I'm convinced it will all block out. And I think currently it's just, oh, it's looking so beautiful. I did try it on just before to see how the yoke was fitting, to see did I need to add more length to the yoke before I split for sleeves, but I'm currently just knitting it how it says in the pattern because that should work quite well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video in about 2 weeks, where let's see if I can get it done, because I should try and publish that video. When should it come out? It should come out on the 9th. Ooh, so I might release it either on... Oh, no, it should come out on the 16th. Aw, sad. I was hoping I'd... Maybe I'll see if I can publish it on the last day of the Noodle. We'll see if I get it done. And if I don't get it done, maybe I'll just publish a video then anyway. And then have another one once it's finished. But either way, you will see it soon. The jumper, the video, I have no idea what I'm talking about anymore. I'm just going to keep knitting away. Luckily, Easter's coming up this weekend, so it means I should be able to get quite a bit of knitting done, but I don't know how dedicated I'm going to be to just knitting on pretty much one project. Especially when I have other things I need to finish. But we'll see. Thank you again for watching. See you in the next video. Hello! It is currently Sunday. Happy Easter for anyone who is celebrating. I have very wet hair because I had a shower this morning. And I've just had breakfast. Trying to not prioritize my knitting over everything else first thing in the morning. But yeah, as you might be able to see, if you've watched all the other videos for this Darkwater sweater, I'm on the ribbing. Started this last night and I realised I hadn't filmed any of the body. Not really anyway. I just got so stuck into it and was desperate to just get it done that I never actually sat down to film any of it. But obviously there's nothing interesting to film, I'm just knitting in a round, but I was going to kind of talk, I think, a bit more about helical knitting. Well, I might just have to do that on the sleeve. But here's what it's looking like. So I added a bit to the length of the body. Let me measure it for you, just in case any of you are interested. Yeah, so I added about another inch, half an inch to an inch, because I tried it on at the recommended length that you're meant to have before you start the ribbing. And it was actually, surprisingly, a really good length on me, even though I thought I'd need to add like an extra 3 inches or something. But I think because the yoke is quite big, long, I didn't actually need to add that much once I tried it on. And when I tried it on and looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't want to take it off. It was so nice. But yeah, so what I then decided to do when I'd tried it on, and it came to about, was it already my hips? Maybe just like a little bit above it. I was like, just to be safe, because I know a big issue with these kind of circular yokes is that when you lift your arms, you can often pull the jumper up because you haven't got like proper sleeve construction, which gives you that kind of ease, if you will, to then be able to lift your arms and not pull the entire jumper up. So I wanted a bit more length just in case, because it's hard to test right now when I haven't done the sleeves. But I'd watched quite a few podcasts where people have been making circular yokes, and I know the Birkin sweater by Caitlin Hunter, apparently a lot of people had the issue that with the lifting of arms, and I think it was also just something else with the circular yoke, but it's something I've heard a lot of people talk about in their podcasts. And this is, I think, this is my first. It's not my first ever circular yoke. That was the jump I did over Christmas, which I don't think I ever shared in any of my videos. But that one was meant to be a bit shorter. But this is my first, like, colourwork one, and with long sleeves, so I don't know, we'll see. And I'll learn from it. But it feels a bit weird. I've talked quite a lot about how I normally would work the sleeves before I finish the body. And this time, I obviously haven't done that because there's no sleeves attached. And that's literally just because of the fact that I was doing helical knitting for the body, so I was using 2 skeins of yarn. 2 skeins of yarn on the body. And I didn't want to have to cut both of them because I also want to do helical knitting on the sleeves. Just to make sure, because there is quite a bit of variation just within one skein of this yarn. So by alternating it, I think it's just created quite a cool look. And I'll show that off probably once I've finished it, about just how different it looks in the yoke, where I've only used 1 skein of my main colour, compared with the body where I've used 2. I've been alternating them every row. And it just creates a very different look. But it makes me a bit sad that I haven't done the sleeves yet, because normally I feel this immense happiness when I get to the ribbing of the body, because it means my jumper's about to be done, but I still need to go back and do the sleeves. And I still haven't figured out how exactly I'm going to do them, because currently I've got Knit Pro cables in there, but with the size, like the number of stitches I have for my sleeves, I can't work them in the round with my Knit Pro interchangeable set, because the cable's just too long, especially because I'll be doing decreases, so it's just going to get worse and worse, and eventually I'll have to do magic loop, so I might as well start with magic loop. But I do have Chiagu interchangeables, but the size that I would need for the sleeve is the same as what I'm currently using for my Otra yoke cardigan. No big deal, I can just, take those needles out. They're interchangeable as well. But it means I have to change out the cable that I've used that's currently holding the sleeve stitches. Once again, not a big deal, it's just extra work, isn't it? So I've done, 3 rows? I'm on my 4th round of ribbing, and I've got quite a bit to go of this. Luckily, it's a relatively short ribbing, which I like doing. I don't actually mind doing ribbing. It's definitely slower than just plain stockinette, but I don't often actually notice that I'm bringing the yarn to the front or the back. And I'm currently not alternating skeins anymore because helical knitting, from the research I've done, is apparently best when just doing stockinette, which kind of makes sense with the slipping of the stitches and stuff. But I do find that ribbing tends to hide variation a bit better because those pearl stitches pop to the back. But anyway, talking about ribbing, I'm currently, I think I posted about this on Instagram, and I've mentioned it in my podcast, the fact that I'm doing a knit along with some friends for the Strands of Joy book that came out by Anna Joanna. So we had a little knit and natter session on the 1st of April when we were all meant to start knitting, but a lot of people had already started, which is absolutely fine. We've been teasing kind of each other to be like, how traitorous of you. But yeah, so a bunch of us just popped onto Zoom and had a nice little chat, and we were talking about ribbing. And it was really cool to see just, someone, I don't want to mention any names in case people don't want that, but someone was talking about how they don't like doing ribbing, and I kind of explained that because I knit continental, I actually don't notice that I'm bringing the yarn to the front and to the back. It's just a fluid motion as the stitch comes off. So I couldn't really help, because I was like, I'm sure that has to exist for English style with the flicking, but I can't really aid in that because I don't really do that. I do it for colour work, for my main colour, but I don't have to do ribbing and colour work most of the time, or any kind of purling and colour work. But luckily someone else was able to help out and kind of try and explain over Zoom how you can do the same sort of thing. Like as the stitch comes off, you already change whether the yarn's at the front or the back. And it was just really cool to see that even with all the crap times currently and where we can't knit together, because that was something, you know, that could easily be shown, you know, if we were all able to knit in a cafe or something. You just quickly, you know, sit next to them and show them how to do it. But it still worked, just took a little bit longer. And it was just so cool to see as that person kind of was just like, oh my god, wait, this is much quicker, this is so much easier. So that was lovely. The whole chat was just really nice. I haven't done much of that one, and currently trying to decide, once I've finished this one, the Darkwater sweater, and finished all those videos, what the next thing is that I want to do, because I think I want to continue this, not necessarily for the sake of kind of talking through the process, yes, is part of it, but I think mainly because it's a video I can release every 2 weeks in, you know, alternating with my podcast video, where you can actually just sit and knit or craft whatever you're doing with me, which I quite like, because then I'm hoping my podcast episodes will be a bit more under control timing wise. I know I personally like long episodes because I literally just sit and listen and knit while I'm watching. And so I actually watch a lot in a day when I'm really sitting down and actively kind of like knitting. But I know not everyone likes the longer ones, and so I kind of felt how my first few went with being about an hour was quite nice. It also means now that I'm also recording my German episodes, it would just be nice to not have to talk for so long. Not that I have to. This is the thing, it's all me. But I think by having these videos, I can just kind of chat through some things that I've been thinking about and, you know, maybe have a bit more of a chat about some yarn and stuff. It doesn't always have to be specific to the project, which I've tried for the most part to do for this one, of talking about how's the process been, how's the pattern been. But that's because Jennifer Steingass was having this knit along, and still is. It's the 3rd of April, we're still 4th of April. What is the date? 4th of April. So it's... Bye phone. So I've still got 6 days. So when I finish the ribbing today and start the sleeves, 2 sleeves in 6 days, 5 days really, I think is doable. What was it for? Oh no, what have I done here? I've dropped some kind of a stitch. Oh, there it is. The Is Cold sweater that I'd been making for, and still am, I'm waiting for that skein of yarn, for my friend Helena. That's on 5mm needles though, so it's a bit different. And I didn't have to make those sleeves as long as I would have had to make them for me, but I pretty much did 1 sleeve in 1 day. So if we give myself some leniency and say 2 days per sleeve, that's 4 days. We're still good. And then that leaves a day for blocking. I have got ends to weave in. I don't actually mind weaving in ends once I've sat down and decided I'm going to do it. Once I've started, I enjoy it. What I don't enjoy about weaving in ends is threading my needle and cutting the thread at the end. The actual process of weaving in the thread, or the yarn, I like that. I really like that. It's just all the stopping and starting that I don't enjoy. This is why I like knitting with circular needles, because there is no real stopping and starting. Like, you get to the beginning of round marker, but it doesn't really matter. You just keep going. But something I've had, because I felt this immense pressure So all of a sudden get this done as quickly as possible because the knit along is ending and I want it to have started and finished in that knit along time period. Just for my own sake, I am putting that pressure on me. No one else is. It doesn't matter if it's done after the knit along. It's just that's what I want to do. And I like having sort of goals with my knitting. And sorry, I'm just looking at my other projects, but I then kind of had it with the body that I was knitting and knitting and knitting and knitting and had to keep kind of taking breaks. Not because I didn't want to keep knitting, but to remind myself, it's, for me at least, it's not about the finished product, not project. Same thing, but I want to say product. It's not about the finished jumper. There we go. It's about the time I've spent on knitting this, the good it's done my mental health, the good it's just done for me to feel productive, because I can see if I dedicate time to something, I really can get something out of it. So it's been then nice to have my Spring Intentions wrap by Kat, who's Heather and Hops on YouTube, because the whole thing with that is more intentional kind of knitting. It's all meant to be mindful, and it's just been wonderful. And yesterday, so on Saturday, we had our third little like Discord chat, which was really nice again, and there were some new people, and it was just amazing to kind of connect with a few more people from outside the UK, because we had a few people, and we were kind of discussing, you know, vaccines, and COVID is always going to make its way into most conversations. I think for the most part we'd never really talked about it, but I can't even remember how it came up. I think it was because we were talking about Easter, and beautiful weather in the UK literally means that a lot of people just don't stick to the rules anymore. And then we had people from continental mainland Europe talking about vaccines and stuff, because obviously the UK is in a very different position when it comes to vaccines. And it was really nice. And I kind of explained some of the situation in Austria and sort of Germany, because I sort of keep up with that as well. But yeah. But that's that Spring Intentions wrap, because it's just meant to be a very simple kind of pattern, different sections, so things always change, but nothing is ever really difficult. It's meant to help you to slow down and just enjoy the process of knitting. And of course I'm always excited to finish off a project, because then I can wear it, and there is something nice. I normally try not to seek any sort of validation from other people, but there is something nice when, especially someone who doesn't knit kind of goes, oh, did you knit what you're wearing? And you're like, yes. And they kind of, you know, say it's beautiful and they love it, and it just feels nice. It feels nice. And I had that the other day. I typically don't. I don't think I've ever worn something I've made and been like, look, I made this. Unless it's for my podcast, obviously. And Instagram. But with my friends and stuff, I don't. From memory, I don't think I've ever done that. Unless they're knitting friends, maybe. Anyway. But so it then helped by taking a bit of a break from this, with the like inches and inches of stockinette. The helical knitting helped split it up, so there was almost this, it's like knitting stripes, how people always say, you just one more stripe, just one more stripe. You kind of were constantly chasing that next ball of yarn, and so it was really easy just to keep going, and instead of thinking one more round, you were thinking, oh, I'll just knit to the next, where I have to change yarn again. But then you kind of go, but I might as well just knit a couple of stitches so I haven't just got the slipped stitches, and then boom, you're already at the back where you were just before. And it was nice. But the Spring Intentions wrap just kind of helped with then coming back to this and remembering it's not about how quickly I do it. Yes, I want it done before the 10th of April, but that actually is a decent amount of time, especially with Easter, and just to kind of really enjoy this, because there is something enjoyable in each of the sections. There's something enjoyable with the colour work, as hard as it can be. There's something enjoyable with the mindless stockinette, where I'm able much more easily to talk to people, watch something and really watch, because I don't have to constantly look at what my hands are doing. Whereas with the colour work I do. Ribbing, I think you'll be able to notice, I can kind of switch back and forth a bit, but it's definitely requires a bit more effort than just stockinette, so I do have to look down occasionally, whereas with plain stockinette, I don't often look down. Not anymore. It does depend on the yarn. If I'm not too used to the yarn, to its feeling, the grippiness, and how it feels when I know I've caught the yarn properly, then I do need to kind of look down. But so I've really enjoyed having that Spring Intentions wrap and this going on at the same time, and because both are for knit-alongs, there is just that little bit of pressure to work on both of them, especially because I've just finished week 1 for that wrap, and I've started on week 2, but yesterday the week 3 section of the pattern came out. So I'm trying to catch up and get to a point where I can actually, because there's one section for each day of the week. I didn't realise that at first. As I was knitting it, and I was like, I'm on section 8, I'm on section 9, and I was like, wait, section 8 was in week 2. When does week 2 finish? I don't know if that's intentional, Spring Intentions, and if this is going to continue, but currently I would love it if I could get to a point where every day I just work on a day from that pattern, because I really enjoyed that with the Cat Van Cal I did over Christmas. For the most part, I was able to oh, my throat's so dry this morning. For the most part, I was able to get up and knit that one day and then just leave the project aside for the next day. Which was nice in the sense of always having something exciting to do every morning, but it was also nice because you almost felt like you shouldn't keep working on it, and so it encouraged me to work on my other projects and still be able to see progress every day. And to also know that at the end of, 24 days for that particular pattern, my cowl would be done, and I just didn't have to weave in ends, because you end up grafting it together, but you have to graft together, block it. So that was nice, and in some ways I'd like to have that more often and not just for Christmas. So this pattern, the Spring Intentions wrap, was quite a nice one for that. It's still nice, I'm still knitting it. The pattern's not fully out yet. But so those are the two projects I've mainly been focusing on. Well, I guess a lot of this, like I said earlier, is stuff I probably now won't really talk about in my podcast. Maybe, just briefly, but you just gain more insight here if you're interested in it. But so it's currently looking good for me to get this done on time. Currently the question will be, can I get this done so I'm wearing it for my podcast episode? I typically haven't done it in the last few weeks. My phone's on the floor, I can't be bothered to pick it up right now. I normally try to film, or my plan was to film on a Wednesday and then have the episode go out on normally a Saturday now, is what I aim for. I used to go for Friday, but now it means that if I aim for Saturday afternoon, if I haven't finished editing yet, it's not a big deal. But with Easter, there's a few bits of mail that I'm waiting on that I'd like to actually share in the video. And if that hasn't arrived yet, and if I feel like I haven't actually made as much progress as I'd like, I might try and hold back a bit and film it a bit later. I know one of the parcels is arriving on Wednesday. And one of the other ones has been sent yesterday. But that means if it was actually kind of like processed and everything... Did I pay for first class? I can't remember now. So it might, if I'm lucky, arrive on Tuesday, because I think Tuesday's just a normal day again, isn't it? We've got Easter Monday, where I think... Is that a public holiday? I think it's a public holiday. So mail shouldn't be coming. So it might arrive on Wednesday if I'm lucky, but I think it's more likely going to be Thursday or Friday. And filming on a Saturday and trying to get the video up on Saturday, even Sunday, it just takes a lot of my weekend. Especially now that I'm filming in 2 languages. We'll see. And you'll see in the future. So I've got maybe about double of what I've done left. Hang on. How much have I done? Okay, this is properly not... I'm not a huge fan of measuring. Not like this, because this is all bendy and floppy. I like measuring properly. Okay, that's more than I thought it was. I get so confused sometimes with thinking an inch is a lot, and then I actually see it and I'm like, it's not that much. I've probably got 2 more rows. 2 more rows and I should be ready to cast off, which is exciting. But I'll leave it here because I think what I want to do is film again when I'm working on the sleeve, talk maybe a bit more about the helical knitting, and maybe have it that, so this that you're seeing now and the me working on one sleeve will go into a video, and then the next video might be, you know, a bit of talking as I finish off the knitting, then kind of weaving in, blocking, and then maybe in that video or another video I'll have a kind of finish, roundup, final thoughts, all of that, and really showing it off, and well, just a summary video in some ways. But I'll talk to you again soon.